Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a discussion over Aeons End, The Descent, the newest expansion to Aeons End. And I'm gonna go ahead and not beat around the bush and say that this is fantastic if you love Aeons End. Otherwise, probably not going to be doing much for you, because like all of their other standalone expansions, which this is, like you can get this and nothing else, it comes with like, you know, the expeditions and nameless and mages and some extra stuff if you get some of the like side boxes, and that's pretty much it. It's really no different than New Age or Outcasts or, well, I mean, literally, funny enough, in this one, it actually came with a catalog of all of the Aeons End stuff. So this is, yeah, the new one. Yeah, Past and Future, Legacy of Gravehold, Outcast, New Age, and then Legacy, War Eternal was the other one, and then the base game. But it is more of the same, which Aeons End is absolutely one of my favorite deck builders, and this just kind of reinforced that again, because I just got done finishing the expedition. So this review is kind of going to have spoilers, because I'm going to go into the 4-game expedition, and I think they've really hit the nail on the head with these expeditions, because as far as I can remember, not counting Legacy or Legacy of Gravehold, all of them are 4-game missions. And that is a really solid, like, bite-sized chunk of like a mini campaign. And they put enough story into it and enough like ramping of difficulty that it feels complete by the time you're done. And this one is really no exception. And honestly, the story that they put in this, the Aeons End has never had the most spectacular writing, but it also has never had the worst. It's always been very serviceable and fits well. Like, I wouldn't, it's not mediocre, but it's also not really amateur. Like, it's good enough and serviceable for the story that they're trying to tell. But with this one, they focus kind of on the beginning of Gravehold's founding. And so your main character in this is Brahma. And Brahma, if you played all the other ones, is the leader of Gravehold. But this leans into how Gravehold was founded. And it's kind of weird that they've gone this way. And it almost seems as if they didn't have a story. They didn't have the plan of a narrative from the beginning, because they probably didn't expect the game to be as popular as it is. And so they've kind of, with each iteration, have gone backwards. And I don't know where you go from here anymore. Because Past and Future that felt like it was almost the ending, where it's like it goes so far in the past that it's not even really related to anything, but it has like ramifications of stuff later on. And Future is so far in the future that I guess that's where they could go. So they made Past and Future as a good buffer of, well, the past is so far that we can keep going there until we hit that, and the future is so far that we can keep doing narrative stuff until we hit that. Because I've done a review on Aeons End and Aeons End Legacy and Aeons End Legacy of Gravehold, and I've done a series on Legacy of Gravehold, I believe. And I've done a review on Past and Future, which was their most recent review or expansion besides this one. But this story is more modern. Like, it's not so far in the past like Past was in Past and Future. This is, okay, what events led to the finding of Gravehold? And your 4th battle expedition is, kind of a really cool throwback that kind of ties in the base game a little bit, even though the base game didn't have narrative. It kind of ties into that. Imagine if you played this one and then you play the base game. So the writing I thought was actually pretty good. There was one moment that surprisingly I was like, this is pretty solid writing. Maybe it was just the headspace, or maybe if I'm a toot my own horn, it was the way I was reading it, that I was like, damn, this is a solid moment. You're like, good job. and everything else is good. Like, they do enough with the characters, and the characters have personalities and stuff, but they're not written to be fleshed out or anything super well. They kind of are personifications. But that's not really, I mean, you're not really coming to Aeons End for the story. However, I will say, because they've gone backwards, instead of being like from here to where War Eternal ended, you get a lot of cool throwbacks. Like, one of the characters that you can actually play in here is Thraxir. He's one of the starting 4 mages. And I was trying to understand his ability because it was worded very weird. I actually think it's a misprint. And I was like, that's Thraxir. Like, I was looking up, hey, what's Thraxir's ability? And then it pulled up the old Thraxir. And I was like, oh shit, is that the same guy? Well, that's kind of cool. So you get a lot of Easter egg kind of things that if you've played all the other ones, you know where the story leads. And because you're playing a very young Brahma, who is at the very beginning of Gravehold, you know, if you've played all the other ones, where she kind of leads up. So it's interesting. It's a different way of telling a story. Maybe that was their plan from the beginning. I would have preferred starting with this and then going forward, because you have a more progressive narrative. But I guess when they're finally all said and done, you could just play it that way. Although I'm not entirely sure if the narration is exactly in the order of release, just backwards. I don't know if you wanted to get the full narrative and do a more progressive from the beginning to now. If you would do, I think you would probably do, maybe it's past and future. You play the past portion, then you do this one, and then maybe it's Legacy of Gravehold. I don't know if you just go backwards. Maybe there's a forum online or something that tells you the order of narrative play if you wanted to do all the expeditions. But the expeditions were good. So, like I said, there's going to be spoilers because I want to talk about all the nameless that you fight, and then I want to talk about the big module that they add to this. Actually, I'll talk about them as I'm going over. So, we'll start with Expedition 1, where you face off against... You face off against... Not that person. The Infector. And the Infector, he was pretty good. Like, he was your standard nameless. You know, it's your Expedition 1. And he's not going to be too crazy. But he essentially has an infection deck. And this actually, because they made... the sci-fi one that I'm totally drawing a blank on, Aeons End, but sci-fi. It feels a little bit like that because he has an infection deck, and he gives you infections, and those stay in play. And basically, whenever he would unleash, he would have a certain number of Nemesis tokens. Actually, just one. And if he has one, he spends it, and then every player resolves all the infection cards that they have. There was a boss in the sci-fi version that pretty much did the exact same thing. So I'm not surprised that they pulled that and put it into here. And in a 2-player game, that's very manageable. I remember doing that boss I've done a run-through for all of those in that game. What is that game called? Astronites. Astronites? Yeah, I think it's Astronites. And playing solo against that guy just kills you because you're the only one taking those cards, and so when they go off, you're just taking all the abilities. Being able to spread them out makes them way more manageable. So I like the Infected, and the new system that comes with this game is the Friend and Foe module, and that is a brilliant module. I'm amazed it actually has taken them this long to throw that in. Because there's other modules, there's the treasures and the gems and things that you can throw in to modify your deck even a little bit more. But on top of the friends and foes, you get banners. And so what the friends is they're an ally. They're a side ally to you with a small deck of cards, 4 cards each for the friend and for the foe. And the banners that you can start with, you can spend to help the friend or hurt the foe. And so it's kind of like you have your nameless and you have a mini boss. Or you have your mages and an ally that isn't a mage. They're a regular person who has other abilities. And what they did cool with the expeditions is they've tied in the friend and foe to the story. But for the first one, you had Delana the healer, and the foe was the Swarm. Yes, I'm just pulling out the ones that I need. Okay. And Delana, because they gain charge tokens and they have their own deck, and what's cool is the cards have a decision to make on all of them. Well, maybe not all of them, but most of them are, hey, do this or this. And so Delana, if she pops off her ability and she can gain charges, you can't ever spend either. You can't really interact with them directly except through the banner cards. But they have a turn order card, friend and foe. When they're drawn, you resolve the top card of their deck, and then if they ever fill out their charges, then they do it. And that's really cool. So Delana is any player or Gravehold gains 4 life. Very basic, but the amazing thing about this game is because it's a module, you can either, if you find Aeons End to be way too difficult, you can actually play it with just a friend. Like, you could have your number of mages and a friend and not even bother with a foe. Or if you find the game too easy, then you can play without a friend and just have a foe. So you can kind of, dictate the complexity and the difficulty of the experience. And that's on top of the Nameless all having increased difficulty setups. But I can definitely tell you I am either not good enough or this game is so well balanced that I have never felt the need to do an increased difficulty. Ever. But the friends and foes I thought were an exceptional balance. It never felt like having the friend on top of the mages, we were smoking the Nameless. Like, having the friend and the foe balanced each other out, because we also had to kind of divide and conquer on managing the foe and just hope that the friend kind of does enough. So Delana's very straightforward. And then the Swarm, they have kind of like their own swarm, minions that they throw out. So they just kind of flood you with more and more broodlings, I think is what they were called. Yes, broodlings. So these were very straightforward, but a nice intro into the friend and foe system. So I liked the Infection, and these guys were great. I'll do a slight ranking. There's only 4 of each. So I'll rank them at the end of this as well. So then you go into the Coven with Myrna and the Scavenger. So these guys are really cool. The Coven, they have no health. You can't actually kill them. Well, you can. They're 2 different cards. They're 2 different minions, so to speak. And each of them have a certain number of health. I think it was 45 and 35. For the 2 witches, and they each had their own power cards that stayed in play, and they would have a certain number of power on them, but they introduced these barrier cards, and if you dealt a certain number of damage to one, you would place a barrier on her power card, and if you dealt a certain number of damage to the other one, you would put a barrier on them. And the more barriers you had on those powers, the less damage they dealt. And I thought that was very unique. I couldn't really remember any other Nameless that were minions in and of themselves and had powers that were tied to them. So that you had to, because one was you had to do 2 or less damage to put a barrier on, and another one you had to do 3 or more. So you kind of had to eventually get higher power cards and spells so you could hit the one for more damage, but your sparks actually mattered, that you could hit them for 1 to barrier them. So they were really cool. I liked the Coven quite a bit. And then you have Myrna the Scholar. She focuses on knowledge card or knowledge tokens, which knowledge has been, I think it was introduced in past and future. Her ability, she just gains 4 knowledge, but all of her cards require her to spend knowledge. And you could spend knowledge to draw cards, you could spend knowledge to gain cards from the supply. I think that she could be good I don't think she did very well with the Coven. If I had to say anything negative about the Descent, I felt that the pairing of the friends and the foes paired really well with the Nameless, but the friends felt like they were kind of disjointed from the Nameless. But that could just be because they're so situational. Delana the healer, just healing in general, is going to be universally good. But not that she was bad. I don't think any of the Nameless were bad, and I don't think any of the foes were bad, or any of the friends were bad. Just less good for my particular playstyle. So that's Myrna. And then the Scavenger was the player with the lowest life, suffers 4 damage. I don't even really remember what his cards did. I just know we kept him in check because any type of damage that goes after the one with the lowest health is brutal. Because if you have the lowest health, then you're always going to be the one targeted. So that's disgusting. Third one is the Blight, and this was Expedition 3, and out of all of the expeditions, like, the Coven was balanced, Infector was balanced, and the fourth one was balanced. He was the only one, well, it's actually Fawn, the Alchemist, and the Corrosion. He was the only one that got smoked. It was from the beginning, I was, well, I think we're gonna win. Narratively, he didn't actually die. Like, we didn't kill him. He was defeated and will eventually come back from the Blight. But he basically gives people tainted halos, and the tainted halos were kind of beneficial to you. Like, it would give you a charge and an Aether, but it would give the Blight a Nemesis token. And let's see. Yeah, and he had a blighted deck. If he had a certain number of Nemesis tokens, he would draw from the blighted deck, which were unique cards that weren't in the regular draw pile. But the reason why he just got smoked is because of Fawn the Alchemist, the friend that you have. She has her own deck of Cauldron cards, which come with like spells in them. I think it was 6. Yeah, Incendiary Catalysts that go in the deck, and that's called the Cauldron. So when she pops off, which she's the one that requires the most to do, she deals damage equal to, for each spell in the Cauldron, deal damage equal to its cost twice. Then destroy a spell in the Cauldron. So she's just disgusting. Like, she eventually becomes less and less powerful, but you actually have ways to put your spells back into the Cauldron. So you kind of want to ramp her as quickly as you can, because the fact that she just does 5-6 damage twice is huge. And then there's the Corrosion, which is remove 2 power tokens from each power in play. Gravehold suffers 5 damage. Yes, I think this was the third one. Maybe the Scavenger was with Fawn. I don't remember. I mean, I thought I had the order down, but he's disgusting. This was the third one. Okay, Scavenger was actually, was with the Coven. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so then, the Corrosion. So, basically, because power cards are brutal, like, there's a reason why they have a timer on them. But having him go off and every power card comes into play, or gets lowered, so they're going to happen a lot quicker, that can just have a combo that can completely annihilate you. So, he's very difficult. And then the last one for 4. This one is the guy on the cover, which is what I was talking about was a very neat tie-in, because it is the Wraith. And I was looking it up, at least on the cover, that I can tell is the guy on the cover of the base game. And narratively, it feels like, hey, this is your first fight in the base game into Aeons End, and here he is, just probably more ramped, because I don't really remember. I think he did have a rage track, and he kind of had the same thing. He was brutal. Like, he was the only one in a very long time that I was like, am I gonna, like, we'll lose in 2 turns if we don't do something, or are we gonna win the war of attrition? Because we were only like 3 cards away from actually surviving the deck, and it was only through Brahma's healing ability that we even had a chance. But he only has 6 health, and he's very simple. He gains Nemesis tokens. If he has 4 or more at the end of his turn, he deals 7 damage to Gravehold. But he has this Strike Wraith track that every damage you deal to him just moves the track up a certain number of points. If it lands on the red, it's bad for you. If it lands on these yellows, you actually get kind of a benefit. But once you deal 14 or more damage, it lands at the end. Then you move that to the 0 and then deal a damage to him. So effectively, he has, 6 times 14, 66, 70, 78 health. But because you have to manage the damage in the order you're doing to him so you don't always land on the red spots, it's a lot more interesting than just hitting something with 78 health. He was very difficult. He hit hard. All the cards that he played just sucked. And then the friend and foe for his fight was Adelheim the Blacksmith and the Cultist. Ooh, okay, so Adelheim, I think he's a very passive friend because he has these forged crystals and forged sparks, which he basically has ways for you to destroy your crystals and sparks to get these. And they're very simple. The forged crystals just give you 2 Aether, and the sparks deal 2 damage. They're kind of just slightly buffed. He's not flashy, and his ability, you can return up cards up to cost 0, 3 cards up to cost 0 back into your hand. So he kind of gives you, if you have, the forged crystals in your discard pile, you can pull them back and you'll have a big buy turn. So he kind of ramps so you went and got the better cards from the supply a little bit quicker. But man, it doesn't feel good really with him. And the Cultist, he was pretty disgusting because he had this volatile pylon minion in the game that could never be killed, and he had a power card that was never discarded. The volatile pylon would build up in health, and when the power card hit 0, a player or Gravehold would take damage equal to the number of health tokens on that minion minus 1. So if you just let it gain health over and over, then you're just going to get one shot. And on top of Gravehold taking damage from that, the Wraith is dealing a lot of damage too. So the Cultists probably synergize the best with the Wraith, I think. So that is all of them. Let's start with the foes on their abilities. From my least favorite to most favorite, I'd probably say the Scavenger is my least favorite, mainly because I don't remember him doing much. I remember we constantly kept him in check because he's just going to suck for hitting the player with the lowest health for 4 damage. Then I would probably say the Swarm, just because it just adds more minions. Nothing really wrong with that. It adds unique minions that you kind of have to manage. Otherwise, you're just going to get overwhelmed by minions. But it's a good starting one. Then I would say the Corrosion, because ramping power off of power cards is insanely difficult. But he also has 5 that charges he has to get to do that. So you have some time, but you can get comboed like crazy if you don't deal with him. And then the Cultist, I thought, was very unique for having a power and a minion that you had to manage its health. And it felt very balanced. It felt like if you could just ping and keep the health of that volatile pylon low, then it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. But he also heals it for a bunch. And if you just leave it left alone, you're just going to get one shot. So those are the foes. Then we have the friends. Last is Adelheim the Blacksmith, mainly just because he was kind of there. In the final fight, maybe if I looked back, it's oh wow, I had so many of these forged crystals that they were actually helping me get the cards that I need. And I mean, again, that's not bad, because as those crystals just give you 2 Aether, and just having those gives you a charge that you might need. So because we barely ever used his ability, so maybe it was more of the fact that we were using his upgraded cards and not his ability. But there were other ones out of these 4 that we were using both. Then I'm going to go with Myrna the Scholar. She could be very good. The 4 knowledge tokens that she gains, if she pops off her ability, she's going to last on her cards a lot longer because they just spend knowledge. And giving card draw is very good. But that's really all she does. She just has these knowledge tokens. Then you have Delana the Healer. I think that just any player healing for 4 and Gravehold healing for 4. With her and Brahma, for example, you would just have all the heals you would ever need. She's universally great. But Fawn the Alchemist, man, hitting hard with her cards, and the fact that you can actually just gain those infused mechanisms, which I think cast for 3 damage, and you can just gain them. She just ramps you so much in power that things just die, and that feels great. So those are the friends. Then we got the 4 nameless. I think I'm going to put the Blight at the end, just because in the expedition we completely cleaned house with him. I like that he has those tainted halos. They're kind of cool that they help you at the cost of helping him. And the Blighted deck is always nice. There's a separate unique deck, but we mopped the floor with him, so he wasn't really that big of a deal. Then I'm going to go with the Infector. Very good like starting expedition nameless, and I mean, he can get completely out of control if you just don't cooperate with the infection cards, and one person just has to run through 5 and they just die. So I like that. I didn't like it in Astronite because I played that game solo, but here that system just worked way better because I played it 2, and I'm sure it would work great as a 2-player in Astronite as well. Then I'm gonna go with the Wraith. I think that him having 6 health, he's so straightforward, but him having just 6 health, but you have to manage the damage you do on this Wraith track, I think that that's very unique. But if the thing is I'm not entirely sure he's balanced. He feels balanced in a 4-player or in a as the 4th final boss, but the only reason we beat him is because the person, my girlfriend who was playing Brahma, she pretty much did nothing but use her ability. With the level 3 treasures and stuff, she virtually casted no spells. Played the ultimate support character. She was Mercy in this, because all she did was pop off her ability, which is gain 4 life. You suffer 2 damage. If you do, Gravehold gains 4 life. So she would basically gain 2 health to keep Gravehold alive. And then she had the Knitted Iron. Whenever you suffer damage, gain a charge. So she would kind of be able to get a jump start on her ability. But if someone doesn't really want to play support, and they're kind of forced to because they chose to play Brahma, which I guess if you chose Brahma for her ability, you're choosing to play support. But whenever you're not really able to do other cards because you're having to spend all your Aether pumping up your ability, I don't know how you beat him without having a healer. And then the last one is the Coven. I just think they were the most unique with the two separate bosses kind of that you had to fight, as well as their tied power cards, and that you had to deal a certain number of damage to each of them to weaken those powers. I thought that was super unique. So that's it. That is the pretty much everything for Aeons End, the Descent. The friend and foe system I think is awesome. Now, where do they go from here? Because I don't want to talk about like the specific spells. The development stuff is back in here. Swapping was not. They only focus on development, and a lot more spells and stuff focused on if this is prepped and you develop, do this. But I mean, I don't know how they do it. I do not know how they keep coming up with unique nameless, unique spells, unique mages, and now unique friends and foes. It's brilliant. Like, there's so much content for this game at this point. So I don't know what the hell they do. Like, it just feels like they're not running out of any ideas at this point. Because normally whenever you have as many expansions as these games do, you almost feel when it comes out, you're like, well, okay, these 4 nameless just feel like slight variations of other nameless. And yeah, I'm not sitting here playing Aeons End every day and playing every nameless all the time, so I don't know if these 4 nameless are similar to ones that they've already made. I don't recall. But it just feels fresh every single time I play. And there's just more and more content, and once you finish the expedition, you open up and you get all the randomizers so you can just play it again. And just because you have now these expeditions that are set off on their own that tell you what to set up, you don't even have to. You can just run through the expeditions again with different mages, and go through the whole story. So it feels like they're not done with their storytelling. It seems like they have much more story to tell. All I can say is I'm gonna get every expansion that they make, and I'm gonna find my own storage solution. But I will say, when they're done, they better do a big finale, probably campaign, like another Legacy of Gravehold, or a Legacy, maybe not a Legacy, but another massive campaign to finalize it. We're like, this is the final Aeons End thing that we're done, and a storage solution. Big box storage solution but I'm loving these expeditions. So, that's it, everyone. On a scale of 1 to 10, it gets a 10. It's my favorite deck builder. And the story was good this time around. The story's always good. I'm just not always enthralled with it. And also because I have to read it, and at this point I'm just spoiled by audio narration. So maybe that'll be a thing. Maybe that'll be when they're finally done, they'll do a massive Kickstarter campaign where they add foreteller narration to all of their previous stuff. So, I don't know. I don't know what they do. I would imagine that they keep going backwards, that they might be leaning more. They could be trying to tie in the past stuff as well as the tie-in to the future stuff. And they could... that'd be my guess, is that's the route they're going. But as far as I'm aware, they haven't announced anything on them being the last one. So pick your poison, honestly. Out of all the expansions, I would actually say get this one, because the narration is from the beginning and then kind of go backwards. But yeah, that's it. That's my thoughts on Aeons End, The Descent. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.